I will be doing my persuasive speech on why the NBA should allow high school players to come right into the league right out of high school instead of having to take 1 year of college like they do now. Currently, as the system is, the NBA requires players to either go to college for 1 year or go overseas and play for at least 1 year. And this year, they started something new, which is called the G League, and it allows high school players to, instead of going overseas or going to college, to go right into the G League, which is the minor league or like the step before the NBA, but the NBA teams still have control of these G League teams, which are their affiliate squads. And they can take the players from those teams and move them back and forth on their actual roster or the G League roster. And I believe that the NBA should allow players to come right out of high school because the hype around a lot of these players coming out of high school is crazy. And not a lot of them want to go to college. And not a lot of them want to risk injury in college or even just continue in college and continue with their education because why? What's the need for them? If they know they're going to be a high draft pick, what is the point for them to go and get their education when they know there's a high possibility of them going right to the NBA and making millions right off the bat? And I completely agree with these players because if I was in their position, I would feel the same way. Why can't I just go make my money? Why would I risk my body and my mind going through college? And in this year's recruiting class, there was 3 players who actually went to the G League instead of going to college. And they faced a lot of criticism because it was a new route. Nobody knows the attention that they're going to get. And it's really an unknown situation. And there was also one player who was highly touted out of high school. And he went overseas to play. And he did not get a lot of the recognition that a lot of these college players did. And I would say that's one of the good things about going to college is you're on TV almost every night that you play if you go to a good school. And that's also another thing. A lot of these players say they don't have an offer from one of the top schools in the nation. They're not going to get the recognition and the TV time that a lot of these bigger schools will get. And going back to the player that went overseas, he decided that it was best for him because he was going over there, he was making money right off the bat, which these college players cannot do, which I also do not agree with. He was making money right off the bat. He was playing against pros overseas. That's another pro of playing overseas and playing professional ball is you get to play against pro competition, and it can really help develop your game a lot more than playing against college competition because even if you go to these higher rated schools, you're still going to play against lower schools that do not have the talent that you do, or they don't have the talent of professional teams overseas. And he faced a lot of criticism for going overseas, but in reality, there have been a handful of amazing players that have come from overseas to play in the NBA because in the NBA, it's the best competition, but the second best is professional ball overseas. And it also helps the NBA with their ratings and their viewership because in this year's NBA Finals, the ratings were down 51% from the previous year, and both of the teams really did not have a lot of young, bright stars this year. And the Christmas Day games in the NBA are mainly those games get the highest viewership of the whole season, but the game outside of those that had the highest viewership was Zion Williamson's debut. And if you do not know who he is, he's the most hyped prospect coming out of high school, coming out of college, almost of all time other than LeBron James. And that infusion of youth also helps the NBA. And I believe if they would have let him come out of high school and go right into the NBA, maybe not have a great year, but playing against the best competition, developing his body, developing his game, their views would still be there. Their views would still skyrocket with him on the court. And their views go up for all these younger players, and it's a lot more fun to watch because you don't know what these kids can bring to the table, and you're interested in seeing what they can do. And that's why I believe that the NBA should allow one and dones, or not one and dones, but players to come right out of high school.